Canada corner and the Billy Mitchell turn. A couple of iconic corners at legendary Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And we are here for qualifying for the Pirelli GT4 America's SprintX Championships, presented by Window World. Green flag flies at the start stand. We are ready for qualifying. And 4 rounds left in the National SprintX Championship, but for the Eastern Regional Championship, this is the finale weekend, so lots on the line about to unfold. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish, and looking forward to this split qualifying session. First half will be for the drivers who will start the first of the 2 doubleheader races this weekend. Short break, then the second qualifying session will feature the drivers starting on race 2. And there's a bit of urgency here. Long track, 15 minutes to get it done, Cal.
You have to execute, and there's always a chance for red flags. We've seen earlier this morning in some of the previous qualifying sessions. Sun is coming out, it's gradually building some temperature out there. Chance of some rain this afternoon, so you certainly want to be out of the melee if there is any rainy starts to these races. And Robbie Foley out there putting together a lap right now for the Flying Lizard team. They've had success here over the years, a lot of experience, good notebook to work from for Jim Bell and his group there.
And in the first of the practice sessions for this weekend, Robbie was second fast in this Flying Lizard Porsche, and he's had himself a great season, running a couple of different championships, and has had some wins and always is quick.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. We just got to make sure that the driver ID is correct. So I believe that Michael Dinan should be doing this first session. It should be the lower graded driver.
Yes.
So we'll try and get clarification. Right now, our timing and scoring screen is saying it's Robbie Foley behind the wheel, but he's a silver graded driver, and I believe Michael is bronze. So you would think that it would be Michael doing this session.
And sometimes it's just as simple as the driver doesn't plug in the right transponder plug for their personal transponder. But yeah, you're right. It should definitely, you would think, be Michael Dinan. But Brynjolfsson certainly in that number 77 on board. The number 47 of Matt Travis. They've had just an absolutely almost bizarre season. Starting off, they were untouchable, Cal, in the first 3 events.
They went 5 straight to start the year, so the first 3 events, first 3 weekends, but 5 straight wins. Then it's like, okay, we had a few problems, but suddenly that bad race at Watkins Glen where they only scored 4 points has lost them the lead, believe it or not, to Greg Leofage and Sean Quinlan. So they've got a lot of work to do here this weekend. As you said, they don't run at Vegas. This is the east side of the SprintX.
Big save by Brynjolfsson down at 5.
Just asked for too much, and tight temps, even though the track is warming up nicely, it wasn't quite there to give him the bite he was looking for. He'll regroup. He's already had a good qualifying run this morning in the sprint.
He has.
Take another look at it, hard on the brakes. Just turns in, roll speed, and the rear just gives up on him there.
Well, he's got that little bit of an advantage, but it may have actually cost him here because he's been out earlier and he knew, okay, track's grippy, this is what I've got, and tried to take advantage of it early. Another big wiggle right there for the 47 car. And getting back to that Nolosport tandem, you know, after those first 5 races, we thought it was going to be a runaway. And as you pointed out, now they come in here a point down.
Yeah.
I mean, it has just been a remarkable turn of fortune for both the 47 and the Stephen Cameron car.
Yeah, it's pretty much a 2-horse race, though, for those guys. But when we look at the Pro-Am stuff in the East, it is really tight. We've got 3 teams within 5 points, led by Carl Whitmer, Brynjolfsson and Hinman, just 2 points behind. Then McAleer and Raphael, a further 3 points behind them.
And for Whitmer, who will see out in the second of these qualifying sessions, Frank Gannett, who ended up when they had a little issue, Whitmer did, at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and the team and Marco Radicic weren't allowed to come into the country. Just documentation issues was all it was. But he was in trouble, and he had that point lead, and Frank Gannett and Ian Lacey said, well, let's put you in a car, we'll enter our car and run it. Got some valuable points, did it again at the next round, but Carl still in this championship, and Frank Gannett, being the class guy, he said, you know, I don't have the pace of Drew Stavely. Let's put Drew in my car with you for this weekend, for this race, and see if we can get you a championship. That's class.
It really is. It's a wonderful gesture by Frank and the whole team to support this young man, Carl Whitmer, in that way, and he's got the championship lead. He's hanging on to it. Championships don't come easy, so when you're in position, but the chasers are not going to give him an easy ride to that title.
Absolutely not. Early times out there, a 2:19.4 by Matt Fosnot, the number 34. That is that bright orange Mercedes from Murillo Racing. And interestingly, they were buried a little bit in both of the practice sessions. You just had a feeling, though, that they were not going to stay there come qualifying. And then you saw what Guy Cosmo did in the Rentec Motorsports Mercedes in that second practice session, setting fast time. You were like, the Murillo boys just must be holding something back a little bit. And we figured we'd see them near the front, and they're there now. Although Chris Wilson now takes the number 16 Autotechnic BMW to the top at a 2:19.142.
Well, so many titles on the line this weekend as we now focus in on that number 16 BMW, because Fosnot and Shimshak are only 2 points behind Sean Gibbons, who has the championship lead in the East Am category. So that's a title that's very much up for grabs right now. Gibbons so consistent this year, started the year with a win. He's had 7 podiums, very consistent, but he's hanging on by his fingernails for that championship.
This has really been just a fascinating year in the Pirelli GT4 America SprintX Championship, again this weekend presented by Window World. But and Chris Wilson teamed with John Allen. Boy, Chris has just been absolutely on form. Whoop, problem here for the 51 of Preston Calvert. That is one of the Panos entries, the Avezzano GT. It looks like that exited turn 8, biting again just a little bit here.
Looks like he's kept it out of the wall, which is important. He and Matt Keegan lead the National Am SprintX Championship.
Well, Patrick Byrne has taken that Rentec Motorsports Mercedes up to second fast right now at a 2:19.3. Great performance for them. It's so nice to have Rentec here.
What a story that would be after their drama of getting to Watkins Glen.
Yes, we're not getting there.
Yeah, trying to get there.
That huge hauler crash, and the driver was okay. That's the good news, but it was very scary. They did a last-minute deal with Nola Sport to field their second car, and this weekend they show up and boom, right on pace. And speaking of on pace, how about Drew Stavely? That's the car he'll be sharing. And we've seen Drew as an Am with an overall pole this year. So when I saw that and I looked at that and I saw Stavely along with Carl Whitmer, I thought, you know what, they might just be immediately jumping to the top of the team to beat here this weekend.
BMWs are quick here, though.
Yes, they are.
Chris Wilson leapfrogs around Stavely again to grab the top spot, but still some time on the board. Just under 7 minutes to go. Stavely, see what sort of lap he's got going here. Personal best first sector. That's a good start.
Absolutely, yeah. Wilson on that last lap had fastest overall sector 1 and 3. So Stavely's got to find it a little bit. See what he can do. Patrick Byrne, then Fosnot sitting 4th overall. That's the GT4 East Am provisional pole. Watching Drew down at 5. Excuse me, to 8.
The storied name we have returning to competition this weekend, the name of Donahue.
Yes.
Mark Donahue's son, David Donahue's had so much success himself over the years, has been in a bit of a hiatus, but comes back, joining Jared Andretti aboard the number 36. Andretti Autosport McLaren.
Donahue back in the ALMS days and the European Championship, running the Orica Viper and GTS, and was very quick.
It's a tough start to the weekend. Actually had a suspension part break on the end of turn 6 and ended up car in the gravel with a bit of damage. So they lost the second practice session yesterday. Currently, David runs second in the Pro-Am division.
Yes, unfortunately, Dave. Stavely right now losing a little bit of time as he got trapped behind the BMW. He's just trying to get a little toe off him here. Trying to make some of that time loss up. The classic BMWs. And there into the pits comes Donahue again. Third different teammate for Andretti this year in the championship.
Colin Mullen should return to the team for Vegas. He just had a previous commitment. Remember, he was drafted in not at the start of the year and has been a great fit alongside Jared Andretti. So young Colin Mullen had a previous commitment, and he said, I've got to stand up for that, and he had to miss this weekend. So David Donahue now a bronze-rated driver after that sort of temporary semi-retirement, we'll call it. He was always itching to get back behind the wheel.
Watching the 47 of Matt Travis, and you could hear him go to the throttle, then he lifted right at the exit. That is never a good sign. May have overrun that corner just a little bit as he sits 5th overall right now. Behind him, you see that bright yellow engine, the 77 of Brynjolfsson, still trying to recover from that little bobble and sits 7th. There's Wilson, fastest. But Byrne just set the fastest second sector in the Rentec number 89, that red Mercedes.
Yeah, along with the personal best sector 1, Greg. He's got 9/10 to find to get to Wilson, but certainly a lap that looks potentially good for the front row if he can keep it together.
Watching Wilson here to see if he can pad anything out.
Byrne jumps up to second, but just a 10th off of Wilson, so an 18.57 versus an 18.40 for Wilson.
Yeah, that was a lap. Personal best in the 3rd sector as well, so 2 personal bests and an overall best in this Torxen Rentec Mercedes.
Ominous what Guy Cosmo, his teammate, can do with a lot more experience when we get to the 2nd segment of qualifying here.
Guy topping one of the sessions.
Well, he's saying, nice job, but just bring it back to me.
Yes, yes.
Let me have my turn.
I think Patrick, after laying down that lap, smartly easing off, conserving those tires.
Wilson's in pit lane. Staveley's in pit lane. We see them.
Fosnot still 4th in the 34 Murillo Mercedes. And Travis Donahue, Brynjolfsson, Quinlan for Stephen Cameron Racing, teammate to Leafage. Calvert, after that spin at turn 8, watching him now through turn 14, trying to find a little bit here. He's 2nd in the National AM category right now in terms of qualifying. He shares with Matt Keegan.
9th overall, though, and a long way from Chris Wilson, who's on the overall pole. So,
and that's a battle
for the championship.
For the championship, you bet.
It's a healthy lead that they have. 26 points. Calvert and Keegan over Allen and Wilson.
And importantly, for the number 24 of Stavely that we're talking about, let's watch as Donahue comes through. But Stavely, right now, that run is 2nd in East Pro-Am. Byrne, would be fastest and on the pole in East Pro-Am, not a factor in the points. So for Stavely, the important thing is he's in front of Brynjolfsson, and that's the team that they're really racing.
David there came in for a possible tire pressure adjustment. Is back out. This is his out lap, but he can certainly finish this lap off. You'll see the clock run out, but they can complete the lap.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad lap that he had before he ducked into the pits, has him in the top 6 outside of row 3.
Right.
I'd certainly like to be a little bit farther up the order, but still in all.
What a racetrack to come back at.
Exactly.
If it's not the top of your list, it's certainly in the top 3, I would say, for any driver that you could solicit this weekend in terms of where do you rank it. Not talking just in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. This place has global respect. Hustling that.
Yeah, personal best sector 1. Heard this in turn 1 and heard it there again. Just a quick short shift. And again, I'm surprised that you can't roll through the apex in that higher gear rather than grabbing it so soon on the exit of the corner. So I think David's still exploring the limits. As I said, they lost a lot of track time yesterday with that suspension issue. So he's probably getting quicker and quicker and just saying, you know what, if I did that corner again, maybe I could do it in a gear higher.
Yep. Well, the general consensus is that McLaren is this track should be good. we've certainly seen a couple of impressive runs early here, so we'll see what he can piece together here. He's still down a little bit.
Second sector wasn't a personal best. He'll have a predictive and know whether he'll abort this lap or try and finish it off.
Checker is out, but if you
Going
started
for
the
it.
lap, you might as well here and see what he can do. A 2:20.392. See if he can better that here. Flashes across the line.
10th slower.
So
It was close though.
yeah, so Chris Wilson, big smile appearing on his face. Another tremendous run for a one. He's fast too. He's fun.
He's a great guy.
Great character.
And that's a great little team.
Yeah, it
really
is.
Auto Technique do such a nice job. See Colin Harbour there, one of the BMW engineers. Great customer support that BMW provide all of their customers. Chris having a little bit of fun.
Yep. Yep. Talking to he and John Allen, and they were talking about if we're going to win this championship here, he said we just have to give it everything. And he said we're going to burn the boats. You know, burn the boats. And he said, yeah. He said, you know that story of the legendary explorer who, when they got to the New World, decided to burn the boat, Cortez, to burn the boat so that nobody could leave. And they had to build the colony. He said, we're burning the boats. It's John Allen just showing off some of that Alabama education.
That's right.
All right, so first qualifying for Pirelli GT4 America's SprintX, presented by Window World Competition. 5-minute break.
Tire change.
Tire changes, and the drivers that will be starting the second of the doubleheader races. And if you've got two different rated drivers in the car, the faster or higher rated driver, not always the faster driver, but the higher rated driver should be getting on board.
Yeah, just timing and scoring as correct. It was Michael Dinan aboard the Flying Lizard number 21 there that we saw early in this session. So he lines up fourth in the Pro-Am class, and it'll be Robbie Thorley who will actually be behind the wheel for this second segment. Tire changes are allowed, obviously, between the quali session, but during the race, they are not. It's a 60-minute race, 10-minute pit stop window where all you're going to be doing is tire pressure adjustment, potentially, and a driver change, most importantly.
And just keeping an eye on the point scenario here, we talked about it. East Pro-Am burn, not a factor in the points, has that provisional pole. Stavely, though, with Whitmer, who leads the points, second in the class. Third in the class is Brynjolfsson, so that was mission accomplished to be in front of the number 77, and they've got a few cars in between them. And in the Eastern Am category, as we take a look at the overall results here, once again, if the car number has a red background, that is an Am category car. If it's a white number on the black, that is a Pro-Am category car. Let's get down to Ryan with our pole sitter.
Chris Wilson picked up pole for race number 1. Tell us about your lap. Was that what you thought you had performance-wise going into the session?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was looking at the sprint qualifying from earlier and saw that those guys got in the 17s, and I was like, wow, that's a big number. I don't know if I can get there. So I figured if I can get in the low 18s, we'd probably be pretty good. I didn't know it would be pole, but of course we'll take it. And now we're looking for the big W.
All right.
Need a couple of those.
What do you have to do to get that W? Looking at this field, it is stacked field as always in GT4 America.
You know, just got to keep my head, you know, focused and look ahead and hopefully keep everyone behind me and just look for that checkered flag.
What's the message to the engineering staff about the way that the car is handling, looking ahead to qualifying here in a moment for race 2?
Yeah, I mean, the car was a little free, but that's usually pretty good on sticker tires because inevitably you get sticker push. And so being a little free, obviously the guys set it up perfect, so that was the way to go.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And as you saw, the green flag is out for qualifying segment 2. The second of the doubleheader races that will be unfolding here this weekend. It's round 13 and 14 for the national championship with 2 more races to go at the season finale at Vegas. But for GT4 SX SprintX East, rounds 9 and 10, and this is qualifying for round 10. Again, driver changes, and a lot of this second session effectiveness comes from the communication between the driver that just got out of that car talking to the one that's getting in.
Right, they can do some subtle tweaks, maybe tire pressure. They're not going to dive in too deep there. Interpreting what Chris Wilson said, he said we were sticker loose, where you expect the car to go pushy, pick up more rear grip with the new tires versus front. To me, that means they're going to have to make an adjustment for the race, because that car's going to loosen up more, and if it's already a little free, as he called it, oversteering, where the tail end is not totally gripping up, I would imagine they'll have to make a change. But he felt good in qualifying. Sometimes having a lot of understeer can inhibit your lap time and your pace, so he felt that they hit the marks in terms of the qualifying setup. But just reading into, I think they're probably going to try and change the balance a bit for the race today.
Well, and having a car that has that little bit of rotation in qualifying, not always a bad thing. You know, you hang on to it for a lap, you get it to rotate nicely, pick up the throttle, etc. You don't want to be dealing with that for 60 minutes necessarily.
No, it's a high deg racetrack here, so it's pretty abrasive on the tires. So certainly for the second driver, again, you're not switching tires halfway through. So for Chris Wilson, he needs to baby those tires and give this man, John Allen, something to work with.
See those crimson colors on the car and the big A on the hood. That's what we were alluding to. John Allen, a very proud graduate of the engineering school at the University of Alabama. Very active alumni, getting permission to support their SAE program with carrying the colors on his car, proudly so. There's a look at the number 47, the NOLA Sport car. And this one,
Hart behind the wheel, I believe.
Yeah, he is awfully quick, and the guy behind him, Robbie Foley, we were talking about earlier. Everybody in this session is going to be quick. I mean, Trent Hinman, so quick. Stephen McAleer, they've just had some phenomenal runs. And let's not forget the 24 of Whitmer, who had that tremendous qualifying effort at Watkins Glen for that second of the doubleheaders there. So interesting to see how this one.
Saw Jason last night at dinner in town, and he looked concerned. Just amazing that, as we said earlier, that this team dominated things, winning 5 races straight over the course of 3 doubleheader weekends to start the championship year, and now find themselves at a deficit in the final weekend of the season. So they're going to be focused. They're a great driver pairing. Jason Hart is one of the best in the business, and he's going to be digging deep in this qualifying session.
And whenever we talk to the team and ask them about Matt Travis, they say, hey, the hashtag we use for him is world's fastest accountant. So he is pretty quick. So again, it should be Jason Hart actually behind the wheel of this car. And that's the Vest Energy Group. NOLA Sport is the team.
Difficult corner you're in. That you think these corners are short and tight, but you're in them for a long time. And I've heard a lot of drivers having to grab gears before they can get all the way to the exit. Typically, when you're balancing the car through a corner, you want to like stretch that gear ratio. He runs up on traffic here, exiting turn 8.
Yeah, that really compromised him. The back end stepped out. He was starting what could well have been a flyer here, and Foley's gonna get trapped as well. But yeah, you know, you look at a track map, and you know, like a turn like turn 3. Looks tighter, and then you actually go out and drive it.
You're in it for a long time.
Yes, you are.
So that's 2 things. The gear ratio, getting that to suit all the way through the corner, where you're picking up throttle and you're right in the power band, but can finish the corner. And also the balance of the car, making a car that works and not gives up one end or the other.
Well, that was definitely a compromise. Whitmer has the fastest second sector right now. And the number 24, that is the Ian Lacey G3 Mustang.
A little bit of understeer there for Jason Hart, leading on this front straightaway.
See what he puts up for a number here. It'll be the first real representative number. Jason Hart comes through to 219 flat.
Foley a couple of tenths off that. I think he was impeded by that Audi a little bit more. McAleer 19.3 as he gets bumped down to 4th position. Whitmer up to 2nd.
Now let's see on a clear lap.
And this should be the good one with the tires, Greg. So even though you got balked there a little bit, I don't think it's really going to affect the overall result of this session, because I think these laps will be a little bit quicker anyway. Still pretty frustrating when you're only on about your third lap and you come up on traffic on a 4-mile racetrack. It's like, how did this happen?
Yeah, it's a huge track, but as you said, come up with some tracks. The number 44 is the Kelly Moss Audi of the Palmer family. And like any racetrack, there are spots on the track where you catch traffic on the track. It's just nothing they can do.
Can't disappear.
Yeah, there's a look at the 24 of Whitmer.
Hinman dives to the inside.
Well, there's 8.5 minutes to go. I mean, there's urgency here.
There is. Alec Udell up to third. Great to see young Alec back in our paddock on the back of that European GT4 championship that he won last month, Greg. Great young talent.
First American to win a European GT4 championship, the Silver Cup, no less. Great run by the team. Simon Knapp, his Dutch co-driver, he and the team just executed beautifully.
It was tight, though. They won it in a tiebreaker at the end. I think they thought they had a point margin, then they realized that one of the competitors was not doing the full season or something, so their points didn't count. They had to sweat it out at the end, but 3 wins on the year is a great run for young Alec. And he's got a lot of opportunities. Carl there, bit of a mistake there, down into Canada corner. That's not going to be a good lap.
Well, he was on a decent one, and I think he just bailed on it because he had all that traffic in front of him. He realized he was going to catch them in a pretty crucial spot. Meanwhile, Christian Shimshak went to the top, and now Hart flows through and picks up the provisional pole at 2:18.255. With a clear track, good opportunity. He made the most of it. Here's a look now at Udell all by himself. See what he's able to do here.
Personal best sector one. Oof. That was close.
Yeah, ran it big wide.
Whew.
As Leafage has just set fastest first sector of all in the number 19 BMW.
Alec did well to keep that out of the fence.
Yes, he did.
You hear that rap across the curbing. That's committing. You want a little brrr, and you don't want to be hearing it that loud and for that long.
Yeah, rattling the teeth on the underside here. So he's going to have to just start a new lap here.
That personal best, sector 1 and sector 2. I think that third one may be compromised, but he still moves up despite that big moment. So he's up to 6 overall.
That says something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Deep breath.
Yeah, exactly. And Whitmer has just set his personal best in that first sector. A few tenths off of Leafage's time, however.
Yeah, so for Carl, he needs to try and piece together a good lap here.
Yes.
He aborted, as you said, and down in Canada to set up a clear lap. Hopefully he can complete it.
And Cosmo has taken the Rentec Mercedes up to 3rd overall in a 2:18.3.
Yeah, just went purple sector 2 as well, so he's got a better lap going. That could be a pole lap for Cosmo, and it is. 17.4, nice lap by Guy.
Huge chunk, 6/10.
Leafage wide in turn 5. A lot of people struggling to get that car pointed in down there.
Yes.
There's our current pole sitter.
Well, he topped one of the practice sessions, sort of serving notice, and has been able to back it up. What a lap. So up front row right now would be Mercedes.
A pair of BMWs on the 2nd row, and a pair of Porsches.
The 3rd row, exactly.
Noah's Ark.
Didn't lock my tripod. It's not locked.
Keeping an eye on who's doing what in terms of good laps here. Udell just set a personal best in the 2nd sector.
Shimshak, is he lining up for another flyer? Is he done for the day? He's done, I believe.
It looks like, yeah.
You'll know when those tires peak. You're just wasting time and burning rubber if they've gone over the edge a little bit. And again, these tires have to be used during the race, and they have to go the whole race. So I think
Yes.
tire management during this qualifying session is a critical part of the game plan.
And that Mercedes, sort of like the Ferrari in GT3, may not be the best in any particular scenario, but has no real flaws in any of them either, and it just works.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
That's what you want for championship charge. You don't want to have really strong and really weak circuits. You just want to be consistently. You can't afford to be mediocre, but you want to be in that top little pack every weekend.
Well, the 77 of Hinman, you don't see this often, sitting 10th overall right now.
Yeah, decent first sector, but he certainly needs to dig deep here and pull that car up the order in the thick of a championship battle.
Keegan back in 9th as well in the Panos.
What Hinman can do here. Yeah, no, he's just doesn't have the pace right now, unless he's just setting up for a very late lap go at it. There's not commitment through Canada right there, so I'm curious to see whether there's a problem with this car or whether he's now just setting up for this next go.
Let's watch here. And he's in. Wow.
That's strange.
Yes, it is.
4th in class, 10th overall for Trent Hinman. Don't say that very often.
No, you don't. Boy, and Jared Andretti in the number 36. He is teaming with Donahue. Sitting 12th overall right now. So we look here at the 17 of Sean Gibbons, who's right in the midst of a big battle in terms of Eastern points.
Yeah, leading it.
Yep.
Barely.
And that TRG, the Racers Group pastime. Porsche, as he flashes through at 227.1.
On the opening round of the championship at Circuit of the Americas, and 7 podiums out of the 8 events. Super consistent run for Sean Gibbons. He's only got a 2-point margin over Shimshak and Fastnat, and Shimshak's currently lining up second behind this man, Guy Cosmo.
Yes. Just patiently waiting here, final 2 minutes to see if it holds, if anybody throws something in late. Keegan just setting his personal best first sector, or second sector, excuse me. Another guy you a little surprised to see this far back in the order is McAleer.
Yeah, and he's 3rd in that championship chase.
Exactly.
So they need to come up with some magic here.
The guy right in front of him is teammate Toby Grahovic. You wonder if Toby's saying, "Come on, man, catch me, and I'll give you a tow if I can." It's classic BMWs. Coming up on a minute left. They should be able to get around and get one more lap in, too.
And Stephen Macklin needs a good lap.
Yes, he does.
Maybe they are just trying to set up for a draft up this front straightaway for the last lap, potentially. Macklin definitely needs to drag that car further up the grid. Okay, here we go. Oh, he's bailing.
He's bailing. Wow.
There's some big surprises here.
Huge
See a lot of the championship contenders mid-pack. That's going to set up an interesting afternoon tomorrow.
In some cases, unique seeing the lower rated driver in that first session actually setting some quicker times and running some better qualifying efforts. Here's Andretti in the window world. Andretti auto sports car.
Coming off an overall sprint win at Watkins Glen. Jared's just been super impressive this year. And I spoke to him yesterday. We see him kind of run those shallow angles to some of the corners. He said, you're very unique in some of it. He said, that's kind of why I run my sprint car. And he said, we've just been really working hard on the car, being able to still get the turn in it. Because sometimes when you don't do the big radius through a corner, it's tough to finish off the corner. But he said, we've really found the magic with the setup. And I said, from a racing perspective, that puts you on the overtaking line and also a defensive line in terms of, you know, covering that inside slot. So It's all part of his recipe for success, and is working very well.
I think they're a little confounded and frustrated, though, because that their Sprint McLaren is just a rocket ship, and they just haven't been able to replicate that in this car, to the point of changing ECUs and the like, and you know, just thinking we can't figure out what the issue is here. See what he does.
Bobble there off of 14, just scrambling for grip there.
Yeah, needs to better a 220.0. That was his previous best, but he needs to find a few tenths. Yeah.
Not quite there. Haven't found the magic here this weekend.
So Checker is out, and it looks like Andretti may have been the last one on a legitimate flyer. So there, Guy Cosmo, after topping one of the practice sessions, and after watching his young teammate Patrick Byrne do a very solid job in the first session, knew he had a weapon and responded with a pole. But Christian Shimshak making it an all Mercedes AMG GT4 front row. As you pointed out, we've got a pattern here, although now Hart with that third place run jumps up to third with Leafage sitting in the fourth spot in the BMW. And here's a look at the overall results. Remember, a red panel behind the white number indicates an AM category car. And this is just the pros, the Pro-Ams and the AMs. And then you've got the National and Eastern embedded in there as well. The top three all are at pole in their respective Eastern or National Championship classes, with Matt Keegan on the provisional pole in the National AM category in 9th overall. Thanks for joining us.